My wife said, I settled for you, but I still love my ex. He's everything you're not. So I filed for divorce. She lost it, started screaming how unfair it was. Now that her ex wanted nothing to do with her, she demanded I raise her affair baby. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. All right, Reddit. You'll have to get some snacks because this shit gets wild. After 5 years of marriage, I realized I was a backup plan for my wife. She settled for me while screwing someone else in her mind. But I made sure she regretted wasting my time. Here's what went down. So I, 34 male, have been married to Jade, 32 female, for 5 years. Met her at a barbecue 7 years ago through some mutual friends. She was smart, funny, gorgeous, and we just clicked immediately. Like when Jim finally got with Pam, except apparently I was more like Roy and didn't know it yet. The dating phase was perfect. 2 solid years of what I thought was genuine connection. We traveled together, talked about everything, had the same goals. When I proposed, she said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was exactly what we both wanted. Just family and friends celebrating what I thought was the real deal. First few years of marriage were honestly great. We bought this nice house in the suburbs, with my name on the deed, thank God. Both our careers were taking off, and we were talking seriously about starting a family. I'm talking paint samples for the nursery level of serious. We had our routines down. I'd handle the lawn and grilling duties. She'd manage the interior decorating and meal planning. It actually worked for us. But then around 8 months ago, things started feeling off. Jade started getting distant in ways that were hard to pinpoint at first. She was always on her phone now, but not in an obvious way. More like she'd get a text, and her whole face would light up. Then she'd quickly put the phone away when I walked in. She'd be scrolling through social media and suddenly close apps when I sat next to her on the couch. During conversations, I could tell her mind was somewhere else. I'd be talking about work or weekend plans and she'd just nod along, but her eyes had this faraway look. The physical stuff started cooling off too. We went from being pretty active in that department to maybe once every couple weeks, and even then it felt like she was going through the motions. I'd try to initiate and she'd have a headache, or be too tired, or just not in the mood. When we did have sex, it was different. Like she was physically there but mentally checked out. I tried bringing it up a few times, asking if everything was okay, if work was stressing her out. She'd brush me off every time, saying she was just dealing with some project deadlines or office drama. I believed her at first because her job in marketing could be pretty demanding. But the distance kept growing, and I started feeling like I was living with a roommate who occasionally shared a bed with me. The worst part was how normal she acted in public. When we'd go out with friends or family, she'd be the same charming, funny Jade everyone loved. She'd hold my hand, laugh at my jokes, play the perfect wife role. But the second we got home, it was like a switch flipped and she'd retreat back into this distant version of herself. What I didn't know at the time was that Jade had been getting advice from her best friend Skylar, this toxic single woman who seemed to think marriage was some kind of prison sentence. Skylar was one of those people who always had drama in her life and couldn't stand seeing other people happy. She'd been filling Jade's head with ideas about living her best life. Then one evening, completely out of nowhere, Jade suggested we try couples therapy. She said she'd been thinking about our relationship and felt like we weren't connecting the way we used to. She wanted to explore our communication patterns and work on our emotional intimacy. I was actually relieved. Finally, she was acknowledging that something was wrong and wanted to fix it. I thought this was Jade taking initiative to save our marriage. So Jade found this therapist, Dr. Linda, who specialized in couples work. Her office was in one of those professional buildings where every door has some kind of therapy practice. Very "we're here to fix broken people" vibes, which should have been my first clue. Our first session was awkward as hell. Sitting on this beige couch across from a woman with a notepad, explaining why your marriage needs work to a complete stranger. Dr. Linda was professional though. Mid-50s, calm energy, didn't make us feel like total failures for being there. She started with the basics. How long have you been together? What attracted you to each other initially? When did you first notice problems? Standard relationship inventory stuff. Jade seemed nervous but was participating, which I took as a good sign. What I didn't realize was that Jade had been coaching sessions with Skylar beforehand. Skylar had convinced her that therapy was the safe space where she could finally be honest about her true feelings without consequences. She kept telling her that she deserved to be authentically herself and shouldn't have to hide her emotions for anyone. The second session focused on communication patterns. Dr. Linda had us do these exercises where we'd mirror back what the other person said to make sure we were actually listening. Sounds simple, but it was eye-opening how often we were completely missing each other's points. I learned that when Jade said she was fine, she definitely wasn't fine. She learned that when I got quiet, I wasn't angry. I was trying to process. Session 3 was about work-life balance and external stressors. We talked about job pressures, family expectations, financial goals, normal married couple stuff. Jade opened up a bit about feeling overwhelmed at work, and I shared my concerns about us growing apart. It felt like progress. I actually started thinking therapy might work. We were communicating better at home, making more effort to spend quality time together. Jade seemed more present during conversations, and some of the physical intimacy was coming back. Not completely, but enough that I thought we were heading in the right direction. Dr. Linda kept pushing us to be more honest about our feelings and expectations. She'd say things like, "Authenticity is the foundation of intimacy," and "You can't build a real connection on partial truths." At the time, I thought she was talking about better communication and being more open about daily frustrations. I had no idea she was loading the gun that Jade was about to use to shoot our marriage in the face. Meanwhile, Jade was reporting back to Skylar after every session. Skylar kept encouraging her to dig deeper and really examine whether she was happy. She'd say things like, "You only get one life," and "You shouldn't have to compromise your authentic self for anyone." The fourth session started like all the others. Dr. Linda wanted to dig deeper into our relationship history, specifically how our past experiences might be affecting our current marriage. Seemed reasonable enough. She asked about previous relationships and how they ended. I talked about a couple serious girlfriends from college in my early 20s, how those breakups taught me what I wanted in a long-term partner. Pretty standard stuff. Then she turned to Jade. I could see Jade take a deep breath, like she was preparing for something, like she'd been waiting for this moment. That's when everything went to hell. She started telling the therapist about Jared, her college boyfriend. They dated for 3 years during school and broke up when he moved across the country for some job opportunity. But the way she described him, Jesus. She talked about him like he was some kind of mythical figure. "Jared was my first real love," she said, her voice getting softer. "The relationship that taught me what true connection meant. What it felt like to be completely consumed by someone. Already, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I mean, we'd talked about our exes before, but never like this. And the way she was describing Jared made it sound like he was some life-changing experience, while I was sitting right there like chopped liver." Dr. Linda asked how that relationship ending affected her. Standard therapy question. What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my life. Jade looked directly at me, not down at her hands, not at the therapist, but straight at me, and said, "I think about him every day." The room went dead silent. I'm sitting there thinking she misspoke, or I misheard. But then she kept going, and her voice got stronger, more confident. "I married David because he's stable and kind, and would be a good father. But I never got over Jared. I thought I could love David the way I love Jared. But I can't. It's not the same kind of love. I swear." Time stopped. You know that scene in movies where everything goes quiet and the camera zooms in on someone's face? That was my life in that moment. "So you're saying you settled for me?" I asked. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "I'm saying I love you, but not the way I should. Not the way you deserve to be loved. You're safe and reliable, and I thought that would be enough. But Jared was passion. Jared was everything you're not. Game over. Marriage terminated. Life as I knew it officially ended." Dr. Linda tried to jump in with some therapy speak about honesty being the first step toward healing, but I wasn't hearing any of it. My wife had just told me that our entire marriage was built on a lie, that for 5 years, while I thought we were building a life together, she was thinking about another man every single day, every anniversary, every vacation, every time we talked about our future kids. She was comparing me to someone else and finding me lacking. Every time we were intimate, every time she said she loved me, every time she smiled at me across the dinner table, she was wishing I was someone else. I stood up and walked out without saying another word. Jade called after me, but I kept walking. Got in my car and just drove around for 3 hours, trying to process what had just happened. When I finally went home, Jade was waiting in the living room with this weird expression on her face. Not guilty, not apologetic, almost relieved. Like she'd finally gotten some huge weight off her chest. She tried to explain herself, saying the therapist had encouraged complete honesty and that admitting the truth was supposed to help us work through our problems. She said she felt liberated by finally being authentic about her feelings. "I do love you, David, just differently than I love Jared. Maybe we can figure out how to build something real from here, now that everything's out in the open. I told her there was nothing to figure out. If she'd been thinking about another man every day of our marriage, she'd been emotionally cheating on me for 5 years. I deserve to be with someone who chose me first, not someone who settled for me because I was the safe option. That's when Jade got defensive. Really defensive. You're being dramatic and sensitive, she said. Lots of people marry someone different from their first love. That's called being mature and practical. I chose you for good reasons. Good reasons? I asked. Like what, my credit score? Don't be ridiculous. I chose you because you're stable and you'd be a good provider and father. That matters more than some juvenile obsession with passion. The entitlement in her voice was unbelievable. She was talking about marrying me like it was some kind of business decision, and I should be grateful she'd made the practical choice. That weekend, I called my brother Sean and told him everything. Sean's 3 years older than me and has zero filter when it comes to calling out stupidity. Wait, let me get this straight, he said. She suggested therapy so she could officially tell you that you're her participation trophy husband. Pretty much. And she thought you'd be cool with that? Apparently. Bro, your wife might actually be insane. Like, clinically insane. Leave it to Sean to sum up the situation perfectly. But I wasn't done getting kicked in the teeth yet, because Jade's grand plan was just getting started. After Jade's therapy confession, I knew exactly what I needed to do. While she was at work the next Monday, I called a divorce attorney and got the ball rolling. Virginia is a no-fault state, so I didn't have to prove anything beyond irreconcilable differences. Since we didn't have kids and the house was in my name only, the attorney said it should be pretty straightforward. Jade had been acting like her authentic confession was some kind of breakthrough that would bring us closer together. She kept trying to have these deep conversations about our new foundation of honesty and how we could build something real now. Meanwhile, I was planning to blow up her entire world. The papers were ready by Thursday. I had them served to her at work, right in the middle of her weekly team meeting. Figured if she wanted to be dramatic, I'd give her some real drama to work with. I was at my brother Sean's place when she called. I could hear her screaming through the phone from across the room. What the hell is this, David? Divorce papers, I said calmly. I thought that was pretty obvious. You can't just divorce me. We're in therapy. We're working on things. No, Jade. You confessed to thinking about another man every day of our marriage. There's nothing to work on. She completely lost it. Started crying hysterically about how I was being rash and not giving the process a chance. She said therapy was supposed to help us work through difficult emotions, not end our marriage. I was being honest like the therapist said. You can't punish me for being honest. She thought admitting she settled for me was some kind of gift I should be grateful for. Sean grabbed the phone. Hey Jade, it's Sean. Quick question. Are you actually surprised that telling your husband he's your second choice didn't go over well? Don't interfere between us. This is between me and David. Not anymore, it's not. You just got served, sweetheart. Maybe next time don't suggest therapy as a way to confess you're not actually in love with your husband. I took the phone back. Jade was sobbing now, saying she couldn't believe I would do this to her without warning. You didn't warn me that our entire marriage was a lie, I said. Fair's fair. But the real fun was just getting started. See, the house was mine. Bought it before we got married and never added her name to the deed. So along with the divorce papers, I also served her with a 30-day eviction notice. When she got home that night, she was a complete wreck. Mascara everywhere, hair all messed up. You can't kick me out of my house. It's not your house, Jade. Check the deed. She started ranting about how cruel I was being, how she had nowhere to go, how I was destroying her life. That's when I dropped the next bomb. Oh, and Sean's going to be staying here for the next month. Sean had been going through his own stuff. His lease was up and he was between apartments anyway. Perfect timing. Are you freaking kidding me? You're bringing your brother to what, humiliate me? Nah, Sean chimed in, carrying his bags through the front door. I'm just here for the entertainment value. This is better than cable. The look on Jade's face was priceless. She'd gone from thinking she was in control of the situation to realizing she was completely screwed in about 24 hours. Jade tried calling her parents, but they lived in Florida and couldn't help much. She tried calling some friends, but most of them were mutual friends who were pretty shocked by the whole situation. The only person who was fully supportive was Skylar, her best friend who'd encouraged this whole therapy confession in the first place. Skylar kept telling Jade that I was being emotionally abusive and that she deserved better, which was rich considering Jade had just admitted to emotionally cheating on me for 5 years. The next few weeks were tense as hell. Jade would stomp around the house, slamming doors and having loud phone conversations with Skylar about what a terrible person I was. Sean found the whole thing hilarious. It's like watching a reality show, he said one morning, while Jade was having a meltdown in the kitchen. Except the main character is completely delusional. She keeps acting like I'm the bad guy, I said. Bro, she basically told you that you're the human equivalent of a participation trophy and then got mad when you didn't want to display it proudly on your shelf. That's my brother. Always knows exactly how to put things in perspective. But the real entertainment came about 2 weeks into Jade's eviction countdown. I came home from work to find Skylar sitting in my living room like she owned the place. She was sprawled across my couch, drinking what looked like my beer, giving me this smug look like she was about to drop some wisdom on me. We need to talk, Skylar announced before I'd even put my keys down. No, we don't, I said, and you need to leave. David, you're being completely unreasonable about this whole situation. Jade made one mistake in therapy, and you're destroying her entire life over it. I looked around for Jade, but she was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding upstairs while she sent her attack dog to fight her battles. One mistake? I asked. She admitted to thinking about another man every day of our marriage. So what? Everyone has fantasies. That doesn't mean anything. Sean walked in from the kitchen at that moment, took one look at Skylar, and grinned. Oh, this should be good. Let me guess. You're here to explain why David should be grateful his wife settled for him. I'm here to tell him he's being a vindictive asshole, Skylar shot back. Jade was being honest about her feelings, and instead of working through it like an adult, he's throwing her out on the street. Working through it? I said. She told me I was her consolation prize. What exactly am I supposed to work through? How to be okay with being someone's backup plan? Oh, boo-hoo, Skylar said, rolling her eyes. So your ego got bruised. That's what marriage is. Compromise and accepting that you're not perfect. Sean sat down across from her. Lady, I gotta ask, are you actually this stupid? Or is this some kind of performance art? Excuse me? I mean, you convinced your friend to blow up her marriage by confessing she never loved her husband, and now you're here trying to convince him he should be cool with it. It's like watching someone try to sell fire insurance to a house that's already burned down. Skylar turned red. Jade does love David. Just because it's not some fairy tale romance doesn't mean it's not real. You're right, I said. It's not a fairy tale. It's not even a participation trophy. It's more like a tax write-off. Something you keep around because it's useful. That's not fair. What's not fair, Sean chimed in, is your friend wasting 5 years of my brother's life while she fantasized about someone else. What's not fair is her suggesting therapy as a way to drop that bomb on him. And you're sitting in his house, drinking his beer, trying to make him feel bad for having self-respect. Skylar stood up, clearly getting more agitated. Jade is going through a really hard time right now. She's losing her husband, her house, everything. The least you could do is show some compassion. Compassion? I laughed. Where was her compassion when she was comparing me to her ex every day for 5 years? She wasn't trying to humiliate you. She was trying to be honest. Skylar, I said, standing up and walking toward the door. Get out of my house. What? You heard me. Get out. Now. You can't kick me out. I'm Jade's friend. This is my house. I can kick out whoever I want. And right now, I want you out. Sean was cracking up. Oh man, this is beautiful. Just then, Jade came running downstairs, probably having heard the whole conversation. What's going on? She demanded. I'm kicking your friend out, I said simply. You can't do that. You can't kick out my friends. Watch me, I said, opening the front door. Skylar, you have 30 seconds to get out before I call the cops for trespassing. Skylar looked between me and Jade, clearly expecting Jade to do something. But what could Jade do? It was my house, and she was already being evicted. This is insane, Skylar shouted as she grabbed her purse. Jade, you don't have to put up with this abuse. Abuse? Sean said. Lady, you're sitting in a divorced man's house telling him he should be grateful his wife never loved him. If anyone's being abused here, it's our eardrums. Skylar stormed out, but not before turning back to shout, Jade, call me! We'll figure this out! After the door slammed, Jade turned on me. That was completely unnecessary. Skylar was just trying to help. You're both horrible, Jade shouted before stomping back upstairs. Sean looked at me and grinned. Bro, I haven't had this much fun since college. Your ex-wife and her friend are like a comedy duo, except they don't know they're the joke. But Jade wasn't done with her surprises yet, because apparently admitting she never loved me wasn't enough. She had one more grenade to throw. About 2 weeks into our lovely post-divorce papers living situation, Jade started acting different again. Not devastated different like she'd been since I served her. More like excited different. She was back to being glued to her phone, but now she was being extra sneaky about it. Taking calls outside, texting in the bathroom, that kind of thing. Sean and I both noticed it. Your wife's definitely up to something, Sean said one evening, while we were grilling burgers in the backyard. Jade was inside having what sounded like a very animated phone conversation. Ex-wife, I corrected. And yeah, probably calling Jared. The legendary college boyfriend who ruined her for all other men? That's the one. Want me to find out what she's up to? Sean used to do some private investigation work before he got into construction. Old habits die hard. Nah, I don't care what she does. She's got 2 weeks left here and then she's not my problem anymore. But Sean was curious. And when Sean gets curious, things get interesting. Sure enough, a few days later, Jade announced she was going to visit her college friend Emma for the weekend. Except Jade looked way too excited for a casual friend visit. She spent 2 hours getting ready, packed like she was going on a romantic getaway, and was practically bouncing with excitement when she left. Emma lives 3 hours away, Sean said, watching from the window as Jade loaded her car. Want to bet she's not going to see Emma? I'm sure she's not. But again, not my problem. Come on, man. Aren't you at least curious about the guy who's apparently so amazing that he ruined your wife for marriage? I was curious, but I was also trying to move on with my life. Sean had no such restraint. He followed her, kept a good distance, used his old Ninja Turtle skills to tail her without being noticed. And guess what? She didn't drive 3 hours to see Emma. She drove 40 minutes to a hotel outside Richmond, and Jared was waiting for her in the parking lot. Sean called me from his car. Dude, you're not going to believe this. She's here with him. They just went into the hotel together. Are you serious? Dead serious. Sean got video of them walking into the hotel together. Jade looked happier than I'd seen her in months. They stayed for about 3 hours. This is gold, Sean said when he got back. Your ex-wife just committed adultery with a married man, and I got it all on video. Well, at least now I know she's capable of making Jared her first choice for something. Too bad it's just a Tuesday afternoon hotel visit instead of a lifetime commitment. Maybe not for your divorce, but I bet Jared's wife would be interested in seeing this. That's when I realized what Sean was suggesting. Jared's wife had no idea her husband was cheating. She was probably at home with their kid thinking everything was fine, while her husband was hooking up with his ex-girlfriend at some hotel. That woman deserves to know, I said. Damn right she does. Finding Jared's wife on social media wasn't hard. Small town guy, public Facebook profile, plenty of family photos. Her name was Jennifer, and she looked like a genuinely nice person. Lots of pictures with their daughter, posts about family activities, the kind of life Jade had been trying to destroy. Sean sent Jennifer a message explaining who we were and that we had information about her husband that she needed to see. We included the video, along with an explanation of how Jade had been pursuing Jared and using our divorce as an opportunity to reconnect with him. Jennifer's response came 2 hours later. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry your wife put you through this. Jared has been acting strange lately and now I know why. Within 24 hours, Jared's world started falling apart. Jennifer confronted him with the video, and he apparently broke down and confessed everything. She kicked him out of the house and called a divorce attorney. Jared then called Jade in a complete panic. I could hear her side of the conversation from downstairs. What do you mean she knows? How does she know? Long pause. But you said you loved me. You said you'd been thinking about me. Another pause. Don't you dare blame this on me. You came to the hotel willingly. And that's when I realized Jared had been playing Jade the whole time. He'd probably been curious about his ex-girlfriend, maybe wanted to see if the old feelings were still there. But when it came to actually leaving his wife and kid, not a chance. Jade came downstairs looking absolutely destroyed. Jared says it's over, she said to me, like I was supposed to care. His wife filed for divorce and she's taking their daughter. Good for her, I said. Good for her. David, this is all falling apart. None of this was supposed to happen. What exactly did you think was going to happen, Jade? She started crying again. I thought if Jared and I reconnected, it would prove that what we had was real. And then maybe I could figure out how to be happy. By destroying 2 marriages? I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. Sean looked up from his laptop. Jade, sweetheart, you can't cheat on your husband with a married man and then act surprised when marriages get destroyed. That's literally the most predictable outcome possible. The fallout from the Jared situation was immediate and brutal. His wife Jennifer followed through on the divorce, got primary custody of their daughter, and moved across the country to be near her family. Jade was devastated. She'd blown up her marriage, Jared's marriage, and had nothing to show for it except a divorce proceeding and an eviction notice. She spent her last week in my house crying constantly and having long phone conversations with Skylar about how unfair life was. This is all your fault, she said to me one evening. If you hadn't been so dramatic about the therapy session, none of this would have happened. Right, Sean said from the kitchen. It's David's fault that you cheated on him with a married man. That makes perfect sense. I wasn't cheating. We were separated. You were cheating when you were thinking about Jared every day of your marriage, I pointed out. The hotel was just making it physical. Jade moved out on schedule, found a small apartment across town, and I thought that would be the end of our story. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, assets were being divided, and I was finally starting to feel like I could move on with my life. I was wrong. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Jade called me out of nowhere. She was crying hysterically and asked if she could come over to talk. I almost said no, but something in her voice made me think this was serious. When she showed up at my place, she looked terrible. She'd lost weight, her hair was unwashed, and she had that hollow-eyed look of someone who hasn't been sleeping. She sat on my couch and just stared at me for a few minutes before finally speaking. I'm pregnant. My first thought was confusion about why she was telling me this. We'd been divorced for 3 months and hadn't been together for much longer than that. Then the timeline hit me and I realized what she was really saying. Is it Jared's? I asked. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Jade's face crumbled. I called him 5 times before he finally answered, and when I told him about the baby, he said it was my problem to deal with. He said he never should have met me at that hotel, and that if I contacted him again, he would get a restraining order. So not only had Jared rejected her fantasy reunion, but he'd also made it clear he wanted nothing to do with her or their child. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't know what to do. I can't raise a baby by myself. I can't afford my apartment on just my salary. I've ruined everything and I don't know how to fix it. The entitlement was still there, even in her desperation. She thought this was somehow my problem to solve. Jade, you made these choices. You chose to pursue a married man. You chose to create this situation. I can't fix this for you. But we were married for 5 years, she said desperately. Doesn't that mean anything? Can't you help me figure this out? I told her that our marriage had meant everything to me, which was exactly why I divorced her when I found out it meant nothing to her. She'd made it clear I was never her first choice, and now that her first choice had rejected her, she couldn't come running back to me for support. She begged me to reconsider, saying she'd learned her lesson and realized how good our marriage had been. She said she understood now that what she had with Jared was just a fantasy, and that what we'd built together was real and valuable. But that was exactly the problem. She only realized the value of our marriage after she'd tried and failed to get something she thought was better. Then she dropped the most delusional suggestion I'd ever heard. What if we got back together? You always wanted to be a father. This could be your chance. We could raise the baby together, and it would be like a fresh start for all of us. I stared at her in complete disbelief. You want me to help you raise another man's baby? The baby you conceived while trying to destroy his marriage? The baby's innocent in all this, she said, and Jared wants nothing to do with us. You could be the father this child needs. Are you completely insane? That's when she got angry. Really angry. Started screaming about how selfish and heartless I was. How I was abandoning her when she needed me most. How if I really loved her, I would help her through this. I said the most loving thing I could do was refuse to enable her delusions any further. After she left, I called Sean and told him about the pregnancy and Jade's insane suggestion. Bro, your ex-wife might be the most delusional person I've ever heard of. And I've met some truly delusional people. I changed my phone number and told Jade any future communication needed to go through lawyers. I couldn't keep being her emotional support system while she dealt with the consequences of choices that had destroyed our marriage. But Jade wasn't ready to let go yet, because apparently, being pregnant and abandoned wasn't enough consequences for her actions. It's been over a year since this whole shit show started, and I wanted to give everyone a final update on how everything played out. Jade's baby was born 6 months ago. A little girl named Emma. She had no one with her at the hospital except her mother, who flew in from Florida. Jared refused to be involved in any way, and most of Jade's friends had distanced themselves after learning about the affair and pregnancy situation. Even Skylar, her toxic best friend who'd encouraged this whole mess, had backed away once things got too real. Turns out it's easier to encourage someone to live their truth when you don't have to deal with the consequences. Jade's living in a tiny apartment now, struggling with single motherhood, work, and debt from selling her car to cover expenses. The court ordered Jared to pay child support, but he lost his job after the divorce and is working at a much lower paying position. Between supporting his first daughter and his own legal fees, there's not much left for Jade. Meanwhile, I've been doing great. Started dating someone new about 4 months ago. Her name is Catherine, and she's a teacher I met through a friend. She's kind, stable, honest, and most importantly, she makes me feel like I'm her first choice, not her backup plan. Last week, I was out with Catherine at this nice restaurant downtown, when I spotted a familiar figure at the bar. Jade, looking rough around the edges, clearly drowning her sorrows in wine. She must have seen us too because she started making her way over to our table. David? She said, her voice slurring slightly. I stood up, trying to keep this from becoming a scene. How you doing? She looked at Catherine, then back at me, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. Are you dating? Jade, this is Catherine. Catherine, this is my ex-wife Jade. Catherine was polite but cool. Nice to meet you. Jade stared at Catherine for a long moment, then turned back to me. We need to talk. If you have anything to say it here. How could you move on fast? She said. What did you think? But I thought maybe when you saw how hard things have been for me, you might reconsider. I thought maybe you'd realize that we were good together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What exactly did you think was going to happen? That's when she completely lost it. Started crying loudly, how she had no one to help with the baby. I made mistakes, but I was just trying to be honest about my feelings. You're punishing me for being authentic. People were starting to stare. You need to go home. You're drunk and you're making a scene. I'm making a scene? You're the one who destroyed our marriage over something I said in therapy. You're the one who had your brother spy on me. You're the one who ruined Jared's marriage. Jade, I need you to leave. Now. She looked at Catherine again, then back at me. She's prettier than me. Is it about that? Are you serious? Is she your first choice, David? Or is she settling for you too? Catherine chose me, I said simply. That's the difference. Security ended up escorting her out. She was still crying and shouting about how everyone had abandoned her and how unfair life was. Catherine was incredibly understanding about the whole thing. That was your ex-wife. Unfortunately, she seems intense. That's one word for it. I can see why you divorced her. The whole thing had been a setup from the beginning. The therapy suggestion, the build-up, the dramatic confession. It was all designed to blow up our marriage while making her look like the victim who was just being honest. But it backfired. Instead of getting her fantasy reunion with Jared, she ended up pregnant and alone. Instead of keeping me as a backup while she figured out her feelings, she lost everything. I feel bad for little Emma, who's going to grow up with a mother who makes terrible decisions and a father who wants nothing to do with her. But that's not my responsibility to fix. I'm focused on my future now, with someone who actually wants to be with me. To anyone going through something similar, don't settle for being someone's backup plan. Don't stay with someone who makes you feel like you have to earn their love or compete with their memories. You deserve to be with someone who chooses you first every single day. Don't accept anything less than that.